Hello and welcome to CJC Adventures. Today we're back in the Black Country and we're going to take a look at one of the most famous nature reserves in the Black Country. It's had celebrity visits for various reasons, and there is a ghost on here known locally, so let's take a look at Sheepwash Nature Reserve, or if you like to use longer words, Sheepwash Local Nature Reserve. So let's go and see what we can see and find. There's quite a lot of ground around here. There's also the Birmingham and Wolverhampton main line canal along the edge of it. There's also, lots of wildlife here. It does say that Sheepwash Local Nature Reserve has woodlands, meadows, lakes, pools, marshes, streams and the River Tame, and it was designated as a local nature reserve in the year 2000, helping it to preserve the important site for future generations. So, there is a lot of wildlife here. There's also a lot of history, and we're going to discuss that about celebrities coming here. Now, a very tiny town in between Tipton and Dudley, the Dudley Port Station, is from here, and you can go to Birmingham or you can go back to Wolverhampton for connections anywhere in the country from there, and that's just up the road from here, along with Great Bridge the other way. Now, one of the first things that does grab your eye about this nature reserve is the pylons that you can see. Now, that runs for miles and miles and miles. Now, when this was first created as a nature reserve, people were complaining that they could regularly see birds and all sorts of species, mainly obviously birds. They were literally just flying into that and just getting disintegrated and blown up. So they put some guards. I'm not quite sure what sort of guards they put on there, but it did do the trick. It's very rare now. I think those are the guards actually that you can see there, just the little round little pieces that they put on the lines that somehow stops the birds from getting fried and fled into and killed. So, it's not a bad idea. And there is actually a closer look of it, and obviously, pylons are very dangerous places. There's a bird there, crow, just fled onto there. But yeah, bird strikes, were pretty common back in the day around these parts. Now, the name Sheepwash, apparently nobody really knows for sure, but it may have come from sheep being on here and being washed. Apparently that is the saying. So yeah, it was an 18th century corn mill on here as well, so obviously you probably get livestock like sheep, and it was dug over for mineral deposits, and coal shafts were sunk on a pool on here. And of course the things that you would have seen many, well, shall we say a couple of hundred years ago in the 18th century have long gone. The corn mill's long gone. There's no sheep on here at the moment, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, around the Black Country, digging for things, mineral deposits were common, along for other things that you dig out the ground, such as limestone, etc. So yeah, this is one of those places where they did things like that. I have to be honest, walking through here is absolutely beautiful. You would never ever think that this wasn't the countryside. It could be somewhere, maybe somewhere in Dorset, or somewhere like Cornwall maybe. I would, if you look at these woods, it's a well preserved place, this, there's lots of trees. I mean, back in the 80s, Sandwell Council actually said that they needed to have somewhere where you can, where the place can have some lungs back after all the industry what was pumped through the skies and the grounds of the Black Country. This was one of them that they actually put together, and you know, this was actually a rubbish tip, would you believe, and then it was just turned into what it is now after the rubbish tip. So it was also many years ago a brickworks. Now the brickworks has long gone. There may be remnants somewhere, but we'll see what we can find on here. But this is a lovely pathway. You would never think this was here when you walk around these parts. Now the one thing that they couldn't do here was actually build on here because of animal waste over the years, and lots of waste that's gone into the ground from the brickworks and when it was a rubbish tip. So they just turned it into a beautiful nature reserve, and you know, right choice, I think. Now this is part of the brook that runs literally like most of the way through Tipton. There's a swallow just fled onto the bank there. Another one of the many signs, just in case you get lost on here. Obviously health and safety means no swimming, which I don't think it'd be all that sort of viable to swim in. It isn't that quite deep, but no, not today. I have to say, you know, if you live around these parts, it would be hard to imagine that this is here. It does actually look, as I mentioned before, like you're in the countryside somewhere. You know, like most places you get ducks and geese. There's quite a lot of them here. It's a really beautiful spot. You've got a little island there, and it's for the ducks and other wildlife. And if you look up here, you've got where it all comes out, and very peaceful around these parts, very peaceful, very natural. Canada geese, or we mainly say Canadian geese. Should have bought some bread, maybe. There's quite a few on here. This is their home after all. Also plenty ducks and mallards. Now for those of you who remember David Bellamy, he was all into his plants and everything else. He actually came here in roughly the 80s to make a film called Magpie. He generally used to make various films all around Great Britain with trees and animal species, etc. He was quite entertaining, he was quite lively, and he came here to Sheepwash Nature Reserve to make his film Magpie. So a bit of a filming location for you there. You could look that up, you may see the footage. Everything what was filmed in the film Magpie was filmed right here on Sheepwash Nature Reserve in Tipton. That's the railway, just the back of there. This runs probably for miles. Now there's a building just here. When this was an actual brickworks, this building just here, you can just see just through the trees, was part of that brickworks. Now still here. I'm not quite sure why. You would have thought that they would have pulled it down and they made it into a nature reserve in the 80s, but it is still here. And Well, it's just nice that the history of anywhere still exists, and just to say, yes, there was a brickworks here. A local train going by to Birmingham. That brook, it does seem quite calm today. This is another view of what used to be the brickworks. For whatever reason, it's got a fairly new roof on. I don't know why. Do not park cars, gates in use at all times. Now I think that's probably gone a long time ago. But this was part of the brickworks. Old abandoned building. Now, don't know whether they can knock it down, I don't know. It's weird really, because if you look, this is like a proper relic of the past. And they've just kept it here. I don't know, they've just kept it here because of, maybe, just to show you what was here. And there's barbed wire here, obviously. The reason for that is to keep out any unsociables, shall we say. But yeah, this is a proper relic from the past. Now, a little story as it goes. Don't know how true it is. There's nothing online. But I've spoke to locals, and I spoke to 4 of those locals, and they've actually seen a man walking round here, and when they've looked at him, he's looked at them and disappeared into the trees somewhere along here. Now there is houses just there, so that story might be true. So this maybe is a haunted place, who knows, but that's just a local saying. But the 4 people I spoke to don't know each other, so yeah, maybe it's true. You know, maybe there is a man walking around here. I don't really want to see him today though. A ghost of maybe a former brickworker. It's great how this is all sort of put together along here. I mean, it is, you know, there's all sorts of species of birds on here, not just 1 or 2 species. There's quite a few have been recorded. Swifts, and if you're into birds you'll know more than me. Now I do believe that this one is Pump House Pool. I think there's 2 pools here. This is the smaller one. And this was all originally clay pits and mineral deposits that they would dig out, and that was lasted until the 1960s. And this was the main, one of the main pools. There's 2 pools. This was the smaller one. But yeah, I mean, just over there you've got like a swan with some young, as it's springy sort of summery time. Now this is actually Rattle Chain Pool. And there's quite a few all wanting to run for all of their food. The swans there fighting over the food and the bread. This is the larger pool. It's quite a vast area, this. This was actually known as Dunkirk Mill before the actual pool was here, believe it or not. Actually young there as well. Let's say time of the year that it is, springy time. It's nice to see swans and all the ducks mixing now. Now when the water's high, this does tend to flood this part. There's water across here at times. That's why you have the pathways the way they are. And of course you've got all how nature works, especially in a place like this. Really marvellous. Well, this area is quite wooded. Just tend to use a lot of and go out into the countryside, but we're not. If you look in the middle, there's actually some sort of bird there. It's like a heron. It might be a young heron, to be honest. Which you do get a lot of them this part of the Midlands. Now, back in, don't quote me on the actual year, but I believe it was 1988, and Richard Branson, who owns Virgin, of course, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Trains, there's Virgin Mobile, there's all sorts of Virgin sort of business going on, isn't there, with Richard Branson. But he actually visited here, I believe it was 88. But don't quote me on that, I might be actually wrong on that, but it was definitely the 80s. He came here, he planted trees. Because of his visit, he let off some balloons. I believe it was around this area he did it. Don't know what trees it was he planted. I wouldn't think he knowed himself if he came back here. But he did come here, he came on the Samuel and Dudley train station. He came off there, he travelled down here in a car. Obviously, security was tight. But yeah, he did let off balloons, he maybe signed a few autographs, had some photos of people, but he came here to this area, and it was nice of him to do that, and he's all into nature and things like that. So yeah, Richard Branson's visit was well documented at the time. I think there's still something online about that if you look deep into the internet, about his visit here to Sheepwash Local Nature Reserve. So yeah, it'd be nice if he could come back again and maybe tell us which tree he planted, if he still knows. I doubt very much, but it was nice to know that he came here. So you do get all these pathways that'll take you pretty much to the high depths of around here. It is a big area, so if you come here, basically just stick to the pathways. The lake is a little bit smaller there. Yeah, a hidden lake. That's another angle of the pump house lake. In the distance here you can see Dudley and the power lines. You can see those little tags on them to stop the birds from flying into them here. It does actually remind you of a scene from, if you remember, Hansel and Gretel. They had to leave the breadcrumbs because they got lost in the woods. And when they got lost in the woods, what happened next was they thought they'd follow the breadcrumbs home, but the birds had eaten them all. Or, if you're not from the Black Country, eaten them all. So, there's plenty birds out here. More on the lake. This is part of the wooded, dark wooded area. There's actually a fox just past the lane, just there with those crows, and that's why the crows are going so mad. Sly old fox. And that's it for this episode on CJC Adventures. Hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. It's been an experience coming to a beauty spot around these parts in the Black Country. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. Click on the subscribe icon, click on the bell, and you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded. And for those of you who have watched, liked and subscribed, thank you very much. I'll see you all next time.